Sturgeon, Department of Ag and Natural Resources.
Those online, could you please identify yourselves?
Tim Reich, Belfouche River Watershed Partnership.
Cindy Zink with the South Dakota Soil Health Coalition.
Justin Kraske with the Belfouche River Watershed Partnership.
Margaret Samariva with EPA Region 8.
Tanner Clausen with Department of Ag and Natural Resources out of Sioux Falls.
Jay Gilbertson,
Jeremy Skelos with Department of Ag and Natural Resources.
Okay.
Bill.
What?
Bill Smith.
Oh, yeah, Bill Smith with DANR is online too. Okay, all right. I have a message to read for you, just so you're all aware. Welcome to everyone attending today's meeting or listening online. By way of reminder for those in the audience and task force members, the microphones used for our online listeners are located throughout the room and are sensitive. Any side conversations may be picked up and heard by people listening online. Also, for the benefit of our online listeners, everyone speaking needs to identify themselves during the discussion. Today's meeting is also being recorded and the audio will be made available online. As we get underway, this would be a good time to turn your phone and other electronic devices to the silent mode and for our online listeners to mute their microphone. Thank you. Next item of the business is approval of the agenda. You received an agenda online. You also have copies in the room. Would there be a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, GFND moves to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by the Grassland Coalition. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed with same sign. Motion has carried. Okay, we also need to approve the minutes from the December 12th, 2024 meeting. Those were also available online as well as here in the room. I hope you've had an opportunity to read them. If you haven't, I'll give you a minute or so here. Otherwise, I would accept a motion to accept the minutes.
Gilbertson, so moved. Second.
Pikes moved first and East Dakota Water Development District seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Chris, now I believe you're going to talk about available funds overview.
Yep, we also just had Sushant join the room. So Sushant, if you want to introduce yourself for it, that'd be great.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me in for this meeting. I am really looking forward to working with you and collaborating with you guys. Brief about me, I am an assistant professor at South Dakota State University in the Department of Ag and Biosystems Engineering. I do a lot of work in water quality and hydrological modeling, especially using the remote sensing data. And I'm working with Jay, and I'm on the SRAM practices and doing the economic and the ecological impact assessment of the SRAM. Thanks again for inviting me. I'm looking forward to working with you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Pull this up here. Just kind of looking at available funds throughout the years. Maybe I have to use a new computer this morning.
Chris, can you repeat what you just said? Sorry, I missed it.
He's working on getting his new computer to work so that he can give an overview of available funds.
Yeah, I did. I had to do a reboot this morning, and it's still rebooting.
Oh boy.
So I had to switch laptops, and now I'm trying to figure out where stuff's at.
Have another person who joined the room. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Al Witness, DA and our watershed protection.
Thank you.
Just about Vermillion, so.
On the table, I handed out a kind of a handout that Aqua put out saying that they're probably looking at a 15% reduction in 319 fund. This just kind of shows, this is a graph here that kind of shows 319 funding over time. As you can see, we're kind of pretty high there at about 2,000. In 2010, we're got a little bit over $3 million. And then 2012, it kind of came down to about $2.5 million. With about $2 million is what we've generally passed through in the past. But looking at a possible 15% reduction, this year, the times are getting a little tougher. This is just kind of a graph showing that. Pull up that Aqua article, maybe. That is one of the handouts here in the room. I'll send it out to the people online. $319 is not the only funds that are getting reduced. Unfortunately, since my laptop's still rebooting, I guess I'll have to send that out later. But basically, it's just kind of an explanation of, I think 319 federally was allocated about $177 million last year. And now it's likely going to be to about $150 million for national stuff. So that's kind of what we're looking at. That's kind of what we're basing our recommendations on this year, is kind of reduce funding to that 15% or that 15% reductions in 319.
Don't have a final appropriations at this time on the Department of Interior. And this is the House's appropriation bill, and then you have the Senate's to reconcile.
Yeah, so I guess hopefully it's higher, and if so, then it's better for all of us, but
For those of us that can make a political impact, doesn't hurt to keep on trying.
Trump zero.
Yes, Trump tried to zero it.
that's what I have when it comes to funding available funds overview. I guess at this point, I take any questions.
Would point out, we've been doing some contact with the congressional representatives, and Senator Thune and Senator Rounds are very receptive to the 319 program. Representative Johnson wasn't as quite as receptive, but he still listened. Do we also have any comments on the big reductions that are projected? So keep that in mind as we go through the projects and we come down to funding recommendations further on in the program. Chris, I believe you also have a management plan presentation. Or your computer will-
It should be good.
Yes, sir. Oh, there is a comment, from the gentleman from SDSU. Thank you. Is there a way to project them? Yeah, are we going to see this further reduced or stay constant? As far as I can tell from working with the congressionals and you, and Chris, you can answer by any means. I think we could potentially see further reductions in next year's budget too, depending on how the midterm elections turn out. I think that's gonna be good. That's my opinion, Chris.
And I do know the last time, this administration was in office, they did, every year they zeroed it out in their budget, and then the Congress came back and actually a couple of times they actually put more money into it. So, I'm hoping that this is just kind of the shock and awe of the first year, and from here on, it goes back up. But time will tell, I guess.
Even just not looking at the others on here, but if you also look at the infrastructure funding, the drinking water, clean water, and the tribal programs took a bigger hit than 319, up to 25%. And then if you look at the geographic programs, the Great Lakes is the only one that did not take a hit greater than 40%. So it's all a matter of making your voices heard.
Right now I'm pulling up our draft non-point storage management plan, which, actually expired in 2024. Been working on it for the last year. At the end of maybe the middle of 2024, nationally, they came out with some new non-point source guidelines essentially. So I tried to tie in some of those into our current management plan that I actually sent Margaret and draft week. Okay, get Annie Lewis in. Hi, Ann, are you there? Oh yeah, I see you. You. All right. So with the non-point source management plan, very similar to the last one that we had from 2019 to 2024. I just tried to tie in some of the new guidelines, and then we also have been kind of working on a new vision. Kind of tried to tie all that stuff into our management plan. So what a management plan is basically we have to have this in order to receive 319 funds. So that's why I'm updating it. I believe there's 6 or 8 objectives. Basically, they're all pretty much all the same that we've had from the past. Basically, just a roadmap on how we use our funds and how our program works. So my plan is to basically roll this out, and then probably have comments back maybe March 1st. Have everybody look at it and give me recommendations and suggestions on what we should put in here, change, and then kind of close our public release like March 1st now and tie it up then. So. Your objective 1 is just to complete activities that lead to the development and approval of TMDL limited water bodies, South Dakota impaired, and then develop and complete watershed projects that implement clusters of TMDLs, which is essentially our implementation projects. Objective 3 is providing for outreach program, basic information education, state. Objective 4 here, basically provide financial technical assistance to identified permits, essentially our implementation projects again. Objective 5, coordinate project development and implementation efforts with local, state, federal, tribes, private organizations. So that's one of the big parts of this task force is kind of coordinating our plan. And objective 6 is evaluating the progress and success relative to those TMDLs implementation projects. So again, just kind of updating this. We're supposed to do it every 5 years. I'm a year behind, so just kind of updating that at this point. Just wanted to roll that out to everybody. And then I'll follow up email with this. I'll send out to everybody and include this link. And then have comments back, maybe March 1st. So.
Anyone have any questions for Chris? Oh, looking forward to receiving this and making comments. And then once we get the comments to you do whatever revisions you want based on the comments. Then does EPA get another chance to revise it, review it? Is that the process?
I believe so. Is Margaret still on?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here. So yeah, we will get, I think Chris will send us the final draft, the final version he has, and then either this will be my first time going through it. So I think the approval authority is delegated to our division director. So she will approve it, or our regional administrator may want to take a look and approve it. But after that, it'll be, completed. It'll just be signed off on our end.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yeah.
Anything further on that then? Okay, it's time for the fun and games. Well, that's later on. This is the theatrical part. We'll do the presentations. Each presentation has 15 minutes to present and 5 minutes for Q&A. Those are approximate numbers. The 15 minutes, please try to stay at because we've got a lot of things to talk about. If we take longer in Q&A, so be it. First project on the list is the Belle Fourche River Watershed Management Implementation Project, segment 11 amendment, requesting $735,000 project. And is it going to be Justin or Tim that's doing the presentation, or are you guys tag teaming?
Well, Angela, we're going to tag team, but this is Tim Reich to start with. And first of all, I'd like to congratulate you on your new position as the chair of the task force.
Not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but.
Well, probably a good thing for us. We appreciate your willingness to participate in that manner. Our segment 11 reductions in sediment and bacteria have been the result of a lot of converting of flood irrigation to sprinklers, improving the riparian vegetation and the grazing systems and the cropping systems in the area. And we measure it, of course, by monitoring the VMP effectiveness. Producer projects to date, and I know this is probably a difficult slide to try to take in, but the green are the 178 flood to sprinkler projects plus the 80 open ditch to pipeline projects that we have installed so far. Irrigation management is on over 10,000 acres and managed grazing, and that's the brown or red dots on there, which are tanks and pipelines on over 85,000 acres. As far as the water quality monitoring is concerned, we monitor 9 total sites on the Belle Fourche River, on Horse Creek and Indian Creek. The black line there is the average between 2017 and 2024 on those 9 sites. And it shows the runoff from irrigation systems and storm systems. The blue line, that's on Horse Creek, yes. The blue line there is the 25 data, And that spike on the far left was when the irrigation system was turned on. And then the spike in the middle there, about the 1st of August, was the day before we took those samples. We had a 2-inch rainfall, and so we had quite a little runoff that as far as the segment 10 irrigation accomplishments, we've done a total of 30 sprinkler irrigation projects, 18 of those completed on 974 flood irrigated acres, 25,000 plus feet of on-farm. This is open ditches replaced with pipelines, almost 13,000 feet of pipelines. Saves a tremendous amount of water. 11 producer RCF irrigation projects completed on 421 flood irrigated acres. That's 91, almost 9,200 feet of on-farm open field ditches replaced with 8,100 feet of pipelines. That was through Conservation Commission funds. We had 3 RCF ditch to pipe projects that are currently under construction. We were awarded another 30,000 from the Conservation Commission for 2026 open ditch to pipeline projects. 12 of the RCPP irrigation projects were completed on 750 flood irrigated acres, 96, almost 9,700 feet of pipelines, 750 acres of IWM and soil health practices. And the partnership's RCPP renewal was just approved in September for $1.37 million. And the RCP applications are scheduled to be batched between January and March of this next year. The segment 10 riparian range accomplishments, 18 of those projects were completed, 20,000 feet of fencing, 28 miles of livestock water pipelines, and a storage of almost 78,000 gallons of water on 80 tanks and 31 waterers. The BMPs implemented on 1,277 riparian acres and almost 14,000 rangeland acres, and then 4 SRAM RBI projects were planned on 244 acres. Our segment 11 focus is some more flood to sprinkler irrigation, riparian range management, SRAM projects on both Horse Creek and the Belle Fourche River. The RCPP renewal for producer sprinkler and soil health, and the Belle Fourche Irrigation District lateral projects. The Conservation Commission multi-county ditch to pipeline projects, some seasonal riparian area management SRAM projects, and continued monitoring of water quality and some outreach and project management. The segment 11 BMP amendment request, this is just for the BMPs, is 7 flood to sprinkler irrigation projects at 319, 410,000 and 410,000 match. 4 riparian rangeland projects, 100,000 of that would be 319 with 25,000 match. 100 acres of SRAM projects, 25,000 of that would be 319 and no match on that. And then 9 open ditch to pipeline projects, a 90,000 match for that. So the total on that would be 535,000. This is just for BMP amendment on segment 11, 535,000 with 525,000 match. We anticipate that when the RCPP batching is coming in January, February, and possibly March, that we'll have about 100 applications for funding, and construction on that would begin this spring. I guess we're down to any questions that you might have.
Anyone have any questions?
I got one. This is Chris Doldark. When you guys decide where to put like water tanks and that thing, like what's the process of where those go in?
I'm going to turn that over to Justin. He's helping make those decisions.
Thanks, Chris. And this is Justin Kraske with the Belle Fourche River Watershed Partnership. We use the same ranking that we do for the irrigation projects. All of our ranking is based upon first priority is Horse Creek. So if it's adjacent to Horse Creek or within a mile, those are the highest ranked projects within the watershed. The next priority is the Belle Fourche River. So you'll see, if you'd see on that map, we really concentrate on the Belle Fourche River projects. Most of those in the past, the further out you go, then the ranking, the third tier ranking would be, or priority ranking would be the major tributaries to the river, such as like Elm Creek, Whitewood Creek, Owl Creek, any of those tributaries that aren't in Horse Creek. But Horse Creek and proximity to Belle Fourche River are priorities.
Thank you.
Paul,
Excuse me, Paul Lepisto with the South Dakota Division of the Isaac Walton League. Couple of questions, if I may. In your water monitoring throughout the year in the project area, does the monitoring or has the monitoring ever included the health of aquatic species, fish and invertebrates?
Good question. This is Justin again with the partnership. We have not done that. We have left that up to DNR and USGS. We do have, there has been some in the past through the School of Mines that have looked at that, or game fish and parks, but our specific water quality monitoring is strictly for the suspended sediment, the E. coli bacteria, and then also taking flows.
Hey, Madam Chair, delighted to see the moving away from the open ditch concept. Has there been any thought on to reclaim or restore those open ditches? If they're
Well, they
not
are.
being used-
Go ahead.
If they're not being used to move water, or what will become of them in future years?
Oh, they are all reclaimed, and they're placed into the field plane when that buried ditch is put in. So they don't stay as open ditches and grow weeds. They are incorporated into the fields immediately.
Thank you.
we have a question from SDSU. Is there any biomass monitoring on the SRAM sites?
Justin.
Again, this is Justin with the partnership. We do some, or we plan to do some riparian green line vegetation monitoring on the SRAM sites, mainly with the stubble heights requirements as part of the SRAM program through DNR. However, we haven't had any producers sign up for SRAM. We're still in the planning stage of that. But they haven't signed any contracts for either SRAM or the riparian buffer initiative within the watershed yet. But it's something we continue to work on. But there is some riparian vegetation monitoring as part of that program, but it just has not been started yet, and we'll start once those projects are contracted.
How long have you had the SRAM in your, project plan?
Oh, good question, Angela, and this is Justin again with the partnership. We put that in segment 9, so this is the second segment. This is the most, we've currently got plans on 244 acres of riparian area. But as we've discussed with Tanner and Alex, with the current cattle market, our producers are somewhat hesitant to relinquish or to retire or turn out any type of grazing areas right now with the current cattle market.
This Chris Dozark, I'll jump in on this a little bit too. Generally how SRAM and RBI have worked is they'll get 250% of the NAS rates. And NAS rates are pretty low out west. So it's a tough pill for the producers to swallow to get sometimes maybe $30 for their 250% per acre. So a little tougher sell, I think, out west than it is out east right now.
So, well, I had a couple questions on your SRAM project too, and I guess maybe one of them might not apply because I was gonna ask how you would prioritize your producers. And my other question is, and you Carolyn can't give me an answer on that, is how many acres does the SRAM benefit through the deferred grazing? I mean, it's not the only part of the field, the pasture. So how large is the pasture that we're enrolling? On an average, what would you expect your approximate size of the pasture to be in a management unit on those acres that you're planning to put SRAM in?
Good question, Angela. This is Justin again with the partnership. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say it's probably about 20 to 25% of the grazed area that they're managing would be what they're looking at enrolling into SRAM. So within or along the river, at least in Butte County, we find it more difficult to get those. We have a lot of interest, but we've had a lot more difficulty because those acres are needed during the summer grazing season. So they don't necessarily have anywhere to go with the livestock during the summer, especially during the current cattle market and pasture rates. We're hoping that those rates go up in those surveys so that therefore SRAM can, payment can go up, but we're currently not seeing that. But we do see probably 20 to 25% that they're looking at being enrolled. However, SRAM is the way we're coordinating with Tanner and RBI is RBI tries to take the lead on it, and then we'll fill in SRAM around those RBI acres, which I think is what they're trying to do East River as well.
So you're looking at putting in 100 acres, and there's only be 400 acres of matching pasture that feeds into those? I'm confused.
Correct, because a lot of where we're looking at that is within Butte County. Meade County, not so much. It's a totally different system because there's no irrigated outside of that riparian area. In Butte County, we're looking at those riparian areas along the river that have irrigated acres right along the river. So if they do have some riparian, they've got reduced amount of grazing acres along there. So they're more dependent upon the riparian grazing areas than they in Butte along that irrigated area versus in Meade County. Meade County, we just haven't seen the interest yet, but I'm starting to hear some interest in the RBI program.
One final question, and then you guys can tell me to shut up. With the SRAM, they're also, you're talking about these riparian areas that they need them for the grazing and stuff and irrigating. Is there an alternative water source within those areas that they could be moving away from the creek, or is that not an option?
It is an option. This is Jim Reich. It is an option in several cases because there are some corrals and with water systems in them that are right adjacent to those grazing areas.
Yeah, and I'll just follow up, Angela. It is a requirement of SRAM to have alternative water. So we try to identify those producers that may have an interest in SRAM, and we start through the regular 319 to get them their livestock water needs addressed. Then we're able to talk to them about SRAM once those are done and the fencing. However, we do have producers that haven't had the water and they're still eligible for 75% cost share through the SRAM program to install it as they enroll in SRAM or RBI. So we can do it both ways, but we are addressing, I guess, starting to work with folks, or we have been working with folks to get those needs addressed. That way they can go into the SRAM or RBI program and just look at enrolling those late acres without much infrastructure development, if that makes sense.
It does, and I thank you for your time. Anyone else have
Thank
questions?
you for the questions.
Yeah. Okay, we will thank you, and we will move on to our next applicant, which is Ann Lewis with the South Dakota Nonpoint Source Information Education Program, segment 8, requesting $407,500. And I know I saw Ann earlier. So welcome to the table, Ann.
Hi, can you hear me? I
Yes.
am not a Teams person. I'm a Zoom person. So I'm feeling a little like I'm not it's like driving someone else's car. You know everything's, but you just don't know where everything is. So last time I took too long. Last time I came before everyone, I took too long. So this time I'm going to be super short and hopefully we'll have more time for questions. So how can I screen share? Yeah, there's a share here. All right, there we go. Are you seeing my presentation? Yes, you are. Okay, very good. All right. I just wanted to hit the highlights of our project to date. And we'll talk about the mini grants in a moment, but we funded 1 out of 6 mini grants. And this is project, these milestones are project for the entire length of the project. So, they're not the to date ones. Volunteer monitoring, 106 out of 180. We've trained and have involved, well, we've trained more than 200 volunteer naturalists, but currently we have about 200 people involved in the program. We've provided 30 professional development opportunities, and an additional 10 student opportunities, and then water festivals continue apace, with 10 of those being funded so far. So I just want to talk briefly about the adult volunteers because that I think is probably the newest to everybody. There have volunteer naturalists are a first program, and this is a strategy that I undertook after looking at previous attempts to have a volunteer monitoring program in the state. Because volunteer monitoring in and of itself was not getting the numbers that we wanted. So what I decided to do, and this kind of happened organically, is during the last project, the last segment, is there were a group of people from Game Fish and Park, Black Hills Parks and Forests Association, and Black Hills State that were interested in developing a volunteer naturalist. Some states call them master naturalists, certified naturalists, that kind of thing going. And I thought this sounds like a great opportunity to recruit and incentivize and support people becoming involved in nature. And our part in this would be to encourage people to interact with their watershed and learn more about their watersheds and contribute. So we get about 50 trained per cohort. Some years we have a few more. This year, I think it was slightly less. We have ongoing watershed training throughout the year. So we've had some of the Danner staff come and speak. I'm pulling a blank on his name, but the Habs, the algal blooms.
Josh Strobel.
Yeah, thank you. He came and spoke to our group because we have quarterly meetings and we usually have a speaker, subject matter expert that comes in. So I try to get a watershed expert in throughout the rotation. Watersheds are a part of the core curriculum that everybody goes through. And then this is the important part, that they're incentivized to participate in volunteer monitoring and in macro blitz. And I'll see if I can't get the video showing in a little bit, and through earning hours. You know, these volunteer programs, like you might be more familiar with Master Gardeners, they have to, or they're encouraged to volunteer a certain number of hours. And when you have that incentive, that little bit of a carrot, that makes it a lot easier to get people involved, rather than just do this for the good of your the water. Those kinds of folks, and we have those involved in the volunteer monitoring program, absolutely, tend to just be very interested in the water as pertaining to their property value, like lake associations. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. But it also really limits the number of people who might be interested in becoming a volunteer monitor and somebody who goes out and collects data. So this was my idea to broaden the pool, and it seems to be working pretty well. This is what we have for volunteer monitors. This is the water quality access monitoring, Danner Water Quality Access Monitoring, Danner Water Quality Monitoring Access Portal. Thank you. And in this year, our numbers were actually down a little bit. We had multiple volunteers. I'd have to go back. I haven't finished tallying up all the data, but 6 lakes, 15 streams, and 43 sites, with multiple, with most of these sites being monitored at least once a month, sometimes more frequently, by multiple volunteers. So this is a lot of volunteer effort. And when you consider that, I believe independent sector is valuing volunteer hours at something like, even in South Dakota, something like at $27 an hour, you're looking at some pretty serious match here. To show you what macro blitz is, I believe when I came before you last, it was still just a proposal. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and see if I can get the YouTube video up. But while I'm doing that, does anybody have any questions so far about the volunteer programming? And I'll be honest, I am for the monitoring in and of itself. I'm sort of the money person. Jordan Fostet, out of the Rapid City office, is actually the boots on the ground Danner person who's coordinating all this data. The data was developed, and the whole process was developed with the SOPs and everything, so that the data that is used can be integrated, used for the IR, and so Jesse and everybody who's using data for their different purposes are able to use this data. We do have a couple of volunteer sites who have been monitored long enough that they can now be, their data is now, you're now looking at assessment projects. So that's pretty exciting to see it just go from a thing to something a little more rigorous. And useful. We do have one volunteer who's all in, and she has some property up on in the Black Hills by Deerfield Lake, and she's doing everything. I mean, she's documenting what's growing on her property. That basically was next to the the Forest Service, they changed the grazing regimen, allowing cattle in at certain times and not and excluding them at others, and seeing what happens to the land. And now she's being on iNaturalist. She's documenting like returns of, is it the bog orchid? Just some things that she hadn't seen and that are very indicative of kind of a really cool, healthy site. So, all right. So any questions about that so far? I'll break up the questions a little bit if that's okay.
Shannon has one on the chat. How do you manage monitoring uncertainty through these volunteer efforts? And is there a uniform standard protocol, and does the data come with notes if they miss the protocol?
Yeah. And this, as I said, the data is the process, the training, everything has been created so that the data is usable to the department. They go through the same QAPs, the Quality Assurance Project. According, they have the same level of Quality Assurance Project Plan that the seasonals and the staff use. So you've got blanks, you've got replicates. They're all absolutely trained in that. I believe Jordan she reviews all of it, and so she is flagging data that doesn't look good or data that she has a concern about. But generally, it is what she tells me. It's very high quality data. Did I get all the questions? Did I get all the pieces to that?
Yes, Anne, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right. All right. So National Geographic was the original funder. They were the startup funder for this project, Macro Blitz, that I'm going to share about. Let's see if I can go back and hopefully, does anybody know? Oh, include sound. Yes. All right. I'm going to run it and then I'll stop it and you can tell me if it's working. Okay. Can you see? It looks like you can see the video. Chris, I think I could see the back of your screen. If you could just put a thumbs up if you could hear it.
Freshwater macroinvertebrates are these incredible tiny creatures that play a big role in the functioning of ecosystems. They're the base of many food chains and really good indicators of the general health of freshwater systems. My name is Dalal Hanna. I'm a Canadian National Geographic explorer and freshwater conservation scientist. My research brings me into freshwater systems to collect all kinds of information, but some of my most favorite information to collect is macroinvertebrate information, because macroinvertebrates are really cool. They nest into the sand and thrive in freshwaters throughout the world, and they are excellent indicators of overall freshwater health. I got involved with the MacroBlitz project because I think macroinvertebrates are this awesome sort of secret treasure hiding in the streams and rivers that I'd love for more people to get the chance to connect with. These tiny insects make their homes on the rocks, leaves, and branches at the bottom of streams and rivers. There are so many different kinds of them, each with their special features and skills. And when you stop and take the time to get a closer look, you realize just how wonderful they are. But unfortunately, the abundance of macroinvertebrates is declining. And although we know that this is a problem we need to try to solve, scientists can barely keep track of what's going on. So to me, MacroBlitz is a way to address that. It's a way for everyone to get involved, to help document what's happening to macroinvertebrates around the world so that we can find ways to protect them.
A beautiful gills! Look at its gills! It's awesome!
I've always loved freshwaters, but as an educator and a parent, my understanding of just how important they are has deepened. We need to protect them and all the beautiful creatures that inhabit them, including the small but mighty macroinvertebrates. So come on, join us. Find your local stream, soak in its beauty, flip a rock, take a picture, upload it to iNaturalist, and macroblitz. This collaborative effort has so much to teach us all.
So that is MacroBlitz, and it forms a lot of our professional development. It forms a lot of our adult outreach. So, so anyway, Angela, how are we doing on time? I did not start my timer.
I think she's doing okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you want to see what MacroBlitz is doing in South Dakota, and I will say that the project is now wrapped up with National Geographic, so all the fancy stuff is over. I'm just maintaining it now as, you know, part of my day job, essentially. Let me see if I can find, I apologize. I lost my Teams window. Oh, there it is. Like I said, I'm really feeling a little awkward right now. So if you want to see what MacroBlitz is, okay, so these are the observations of, if you're not familiar with iNaturalist, that have been made through MacroBlitz since we launched, which was April 4th of 2024. So it's been going on a little bit over a year. We already have 2,500 more than 2,500 observations. Most of them are from a very dedicated mussel observer. If you go look at the individual observations, go over to the grid, you can see there are lots of mussels. But we do have quite a few of the other kinds of species, and I'll have to go back to the main MacroBlitz project to look at that if we want to look at, for example, the nymphs. Those tend to be pretty popular. And then I'll go over here and I will search South Dakota so that you can see what we've done. Okay, so one of the challenges is that this is a presence documentation. It's not, we're not trying to simulate or replace a rapid bioassessment. This is really to get people involved and aware and sort of maybe fall in love a little bit with macroinvertebrates. And it seems to be working. I'd like to see the bug data a little more robust, but I think with time that will come. So moving on to the financial portion, I believe you've probably have all read the document pretty well. But essentially, my charge from Chris and Jordan were that we would have to cut some areas, and where we've trimmed a little bit. If you're looking at your budget, should I go ahead and share that as well, the budget, just so that you have it in front of you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be helpful. Okay. All right, and I will. Does that make it easier to see? Okay. All right. Where we are trimming is we're still doing mini grants, but because those aren't particularly well, activated or utilized, we're stepping that back a little bit. We still obviously want to make this opportunity available to as many people as possible for local work or regional work. But with the growth of particularly of the volunteer monitoring, we decided some of that funding should move over to the volunteer monitoring piece. Or I should say I decided, and Chris and Jordan didn't give me a hard no. So this is really me. You'll see our water education is trimmed down a little bit. We're still committed to water festivals and a little bit of professional development. I feel that in reaching teachers, that's our best way of reaching the most number of kids across the grade spectrum. So these are the numbers. I'm happy to answer any questions about either Macro Blitz or about the budgeting decisions.
And Jay Gilbertson with East Dakota.
Hi.
Hopefully I stay online driving down the interstate. I note that you show for the water festival 15,000 here in.
Jay, you're cutting in and out, but I think you're wondering about my water festival in kind because of knowing that the water festivals are huge match generators. Like the Brookings Water Festival, the Big Sioux Water Festival, they generate a ton of match, probably as much as is noted in here. Is that a good? Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was my point. I'm gonna write checks next week for $18,000.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No. You're still cutting it out. So the reason I do this, and I'm very aware, and it's not to slight the water festivals or their contribution or their value in any way. But I think this past year, particularly since beginning of 2025, has shown us that things we thought were safe and sure and going to be funded may not be. And I'm trying to be realistic, like this is what I feel in a worst case scenario we could come up with. Assuming the water festivals run. If, for God forbid, if the Brookings Water Festival all of a sudden had to shrink, what could we obviously do? So that's my rationale. It's a budget is a starting point. It's certainly not meant to be the end word on anything. So, and if the department wishes, if everybody, if Chris and everybody, I mean, we can certainly revise those numbers upwards. I don't think there's ever any heartache or concern about having too much match. I will say that I went to a training on match, and the counsel is to do the minimum. And because if you get audited, you have to prove every dollar.
Anyone else have any questions of Ann?
Thanks, Jay.
You did a good presentation, and I don't see any more questions online or in the room, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's kind of well run, it's like Okay, next one up will be the Soil Health Improvement and Planning Project Segment 3 amendment with a request of $800,000. And I believe Cindy's going to present and Terry's going to pitch in.
Correct.
You just
Thank
be a
you.
dirty bug. Okay.
Thank you, Angela. Can everyone hear me okay? Or should I put in my earbuds and my microphone?
Very good.
Good. Okay. I appreciate the time of the task force. I will get the presentation up here to share. Did it go into presentation mode?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so like Angela said, it's the Soil Health Improvement and Planning Project, segment 3, and this is an amendment. We are adding the 2 years onto this segment. So we've started this segment and has been working very well and successful in my view, gaining interest and also gaining areas. So here we are able to work through this project within any of the watershed boundaries. So here's a map of the different areas that we work with. Keep moving. Oh. Okay, try again.
Your cursor moving.
Yeah, but it's locked up. So I'm gonna stop and redo. Sorry about that. I moved your guys' picture out of my way so I could see the screen better, and then it went away. There we go. The Soil Health Coalition works to promote water quality through soil health education and research is our mission. And we do that primarily for the benefit of South Dakota. The water bodies are the key point in this whole effort.
We can't see your screen now, Cindy.
Oh, no.
Presentation.
I can see you.
Well, that isn't necessary. Thanks for letting me know. I would have went through a bunch of slides. Okay, try again. Apologize. See, and you weren't the only one. Okay, now?
Yep.
All right. So back to water quality, strengthening our farm ranches here in South Dakota. It doesn't like it when I do that. Then mine doesn't move.
Maybe,
okay.
I was gonna say,
PowerPoint to
yeah,
you.
if you could send a PowerPoint to me, I could maybe go through it.
Well, there. Now, did it move? Can you see my screen? And it moved? Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right, we're gonna keep moving while it's working. Improving is always evident of having the right tools. So every job that I've ever accomplished, I always needed the right tools in order for that to happen. And the Soil Health Improvement and Planning Project does the same thing. So having those tools effectively, some of the tools that I like to use in this project area is our team, obviously, but also some of the different ways we help educate and implement the practices that we've been very fortunate to have the funding for through 319. So here you can see a few of the dots. This is an older map, and I'll show you a new one here coming up. And having those tools has that ability to make sure that the right practices is going on the right ground. We do work closely with NRCS. Our staff is co-located in those buildings, so we utilize some of their engineers on practices for the implementation. Some of the cropland best management practices that we do work with, cropland, and having that diversity, making sure that's included in their operations. No-till, we do work with no-till in providing funds for that through some partnerships as well as some 319, but we do require it. So after if they plant a cover crop, they have to no-till that next year's crop. So it does work really well to get them started if they haven't taken that step to go fully no-till. And so there's a picture of a cover crop field. And then there's one of the tanks that we worked with. Some of the grassland management practices that we do, forage or biomass and grass seedings, that has been very popular this year. Last year we had an overabundance of cover crops, and now I really like to see that they're realizing there's some of those cropland acres that should have probably never been cropland and planting them back to grass. So we work with our partners on that as well. We do install some of the grassland management hard practices as well, putting in those pipelines, tanks, and then especially working with partners. That's something we've worked hard at, trying to stretch our dollars as much as possible. Here's just a small snapshot of some of the partners and some of them that have provided funds for the producers that we are working with. So improving water quality, as everyone in that room knows, that topsoil degradation and maintaining that water quality. We want to keep that topsoil in place as much as possible so it's not moving. So we utilize those 5 principles of soil health, and they go hand in hand to make sure that that water goes into the soil and not running off of the soil. So one thing we worked on to try to show you some things is a little website that I've been working on, and we'll see if this works. Okay, did it screen change? Like now you can see a practices?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So it's just a little tracking tool that we've done. It's not complete, but it is in process, and I've really liked, so I can see it in a more effective way at the fingertips, right? So that's what I want. So our program overview, total farms, reductions, phosphorus, and then the sediments, the nitrogen, those are there. Some of our funding sources, I don't have all of the partners in there yet, but we'll work on that. So you can see some of the differences when I put my cursor. Can you see that? Okay. All right. So it'll list some of the different dollars that we've used. And you can see the differences in the different colors too, the 319 funds versus the local funds that we are able to generate. Another thing that's been helpful for me to share with people is showing some of the different practices. And then it'll show some of the dollars plus the funding and how many acres. Like I said, I haven't updated it with just this, especially this last voucher that we've used. Okay. And then down, I'm just keeping scrolling and tell me if it's going too fast or it's not picking up. So DANR sent out a new, I don't know how you say it for sure, Chris, is it PLET or PLET, way to monitor your reductions. So that's something we have been working on transitioning to, and we used it this time for our GERTS report and found it very interesting. So as you work, as we know, when you can implement one thing, you're going to have an impact. But if you do the whole system in soil health, you're going to have a greater impact, and you're going to get your soil to be able to take in more water and have that utilized for the plants that it's being able to sustain. So that's what this is showing here. The combined practices, the cover crops and the conservation practices, tillage on there. So if I put my cursor on them, it just shows me some of the rough numbers that I've actually done. So here on, well, it's on my right, I'm not sure on yours, is a map of the different locations of the practices that we've done, and then what we did. So if I click on them, it should bring up what specifically that picture or what that practice was and what we've spent with that producer. So you can see it's primarily right in the heart of where our area is focusing on. So in the Belle Fourche area, plus here in the different South Centrals and Big Sioux and the Prairie Coteaux watershed areas. There were a few in this area, which I had contacted Tanner and Chris, and they were right along the Cheyenne River. So that also was a priority. Here, I'm going to start putting in all the different available funds that we've had allocated, just to give a better way for people to see what's been going on and how we've been utilizing the funds and the different sources. like that slide showed, that was been something I've worked hard on, is trying to make sure our dollars are effectively being used, and then find other ways to make sure we can continue those projects as well. And this one is the utilization by practice type with the funding amounts. So cover crop here, allocated and used, tours, workshops, and some of those on down, any of those products that we have within our project. So anyone have any questions on that? Okay, I'm gonna switch, hopefully.
I do have a question for you real quick, Cindy.
You bet.
As you talk, you put this out, I assume this is on public access on your website, or it plans to be?
It will be, yeah, as soon as I get it finalized, but it will be definitely. That's one thing we want to make sure everyone can see, how we work with people and how those are affecting the implementation, and how soil health can help share those successes, right? Those are all successes for all of us. All right.
Well, as I look at your, you know, you have nitrogen reduction, phosphorus reduction, sediment reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Are you planning to possibly put in a human definition of what that means, as opposed to scientist definition? Is that the right way to put that? Because you want the public to read this and understand it, and if they can just click on that and say, this is sediment reduction, this is what it means.
Right. So yeah, more easily understood. Sometimes when I do articles or doing presentations, I usually say I'm putting it in farmer terms, right? I want everyone to understand what we do and why we do it. Yeah, so agreed.
Don't mean to take your time, but thank you.
Yes, no problem. All right.
You've got 2 minutes left.
Okay, one quick thing I just wanted to share. So our focus with the water quality has been very evident on different things that we do. I don't know if everyone has seen it. So we do an essay and a video contest for the youth that they can participate. And last year's winner, it was on water quality. So I'm going to share part of it if you would like, but you can find the link and I can put that in there. This young man truly impressed me because he actually used Legos to demonstrate it. And that the depiction that he was able to do is, like I said, amazing. So do a quick part and you can see part of it, but I will include it in the minutes.
No matter where you are in the world, water is vital to human existence. Water is used to cool equipment and manufacturing, which keeps it from getting damaged. In dry areas, where little profit is gained with crops, water is used in irrigation systems. Water is also great for recreational use, like boating, fishing, and even swimming. Even though water is so important, it is being polluted at a fast rate. Many farmers till their fields, which makes the soil susceptible to both wind and water erosion. When dirt gets washed from the field, it goes from the field to the ditches, to the creeks, and then from the creeks to the rivers. Then after the rivers, it ends up eventually in the ocean. The soil is deposited far away from the farm, where the topsoil is needed for crop production. Nearly 90 million tons of soil has been deposited in Louisiana by the Mississippi River. However, we can reduce soil erosion significantly by keeping the soil covered. Vegetation and crop residue provide a buffer to protect the soil from wind and water erosion. Any type of cover can help prevent soil from getting eroded by wind or water. In the spring and during the growing season, farmers are spreading fertilizer and spraying their crops to help the crops grow and also to reduce weed pressure. Heavy rain that hits the bare soil leads to runoff, which is the movement of water over the soil surface. In addition to causing erosion, runoff also washes fertilizer and chemicals off of fields, which eventually ends up in creeks and rivers. This can result in excess nitrate and chemical pollution of water, creating water that is unsafe for human consumption without the costly and challenging task of removing the bad chemicals from water. 45% of tap water in the US has some sort of forever chemicals, which can cause serious health problems. Stopping these issues starts with proper soil management. Farms that lack crop diversity, overuses fertilizer and chemicals, tills fields multiple times a year, and lack of livestock grazing creates unhealthy soils with poor structure. Good soil structure is essential to preventing runoff because it allows for infiltration, which is the movement of water into the soil layers. Good soil structure is comparable to our homes. In our homes, there are hallways, doors, and staircases that allow us to move from room to room. Soil with good structure will have pores that allow water and roots to move through the soil with ease. Tillage which results in poor soil structure is similar to a home after a wrecking ball has been used to demolish it. These management practices destroy soil structure. Once soil structure is gone, the downward spiral from erosion to water pollution begins. With growing populations, more water is needed for people. So water is going to have to be protected from garbage, and farmers will have to be careful when fertilizing or spraying. Keeping the water on Earth clean is important for future generations. We have to do our part to keep the water clean. Just a little effort can go a long way. We should try a little to make the soil stay.
Oh, I'm sure my time is up, so I would, thank you very much for all you have done to help us to keep working with producers. So I would take any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Cindy?
Have any question, but I would like Cindy to touch on the collaboration you did out west.
Sure, with the virtual fencing, that one.
No, with the one just here on the Talkin Stanley County line. I forget the.
Oh, yeah, I would love to. Yeah, so we worked with a number of different partners and brought some ground back to grasslands. So that is something that, like I said, the effort in trying to make sure we keep the grasslands where they are, for one, but to put the cropland back where it should be. That area that was planted back to grass had been eroding for years, and it came together. The Grassland Coalition, the Conservation District, Fish and Wildlife, Audubon, Dakota, Ducks Unlimited, Game Fish and Parks. There was a number of us that came together, and we all put in funds for this area to be planted back to grass. And then we're also a part of an RCPP, which this gentleman then would get some funds to help continue the establishment. So during that time frame, he can get a little payment off and making sure that that grass stays and gets healthy enough before it's utilized. So I think it's been a really big win, and that's why I included that one slide with some of our different partners. We try to stretch every dollar as far as we can, and that one was like about 14,000 acres that was planted back to grass. So the impact on the wildlife, and especially the pollinators, and having it in that central part is going to be huge. Fish and Wildlife actually has some good slides on that for us to share out too. I should have included some of them. Thanks for the question.
What was the producer's attitude, and how did they react?
Yeah, he has been very receptive and amazed at how many different partners came together in order for that to happen. So he purchased the ground not knowing for sure, but was able to have everyone come together. Sean, who was our chairman at the time, actually met him at a sale barn or somewhere and had a good conversation. So it has been impactful, I think, in helping producers to see how we can partner for their best management practices.
And the adjoining landowners' responses, have you heard any of that?
Yeah, well, one of them is a Dowd, and yeah, he was truly thrilled, actually, just because of how much erosion that has been happening out there.
Do we have any estimated reductions on that or?
So we're just getting those, right? So that one was, so yeah, I do have, I will have, and include those. So yeah, those have been huge just because of that impact in that area. That was another one that was outside of the area. So I did contact Chris and just to see if I could utilize some of those funds, and I utilized some of those plus some other the private funds that we had to make sure that we could effectively be a part of it.
May I ask major tributary?
Cheyenne.
Yeah, kind of, it's right at.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have to look at it.
Bad River and Cheyenne.
Okay.
Bad River, there you go. Yeah, the Cheyenne is there, but it also, well, it's 14,000 acres. It has a lot of tributaries. It's huge.
That's why I
That's
went
the
for major.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just like the, you know, the fact that all of these partners came together and worked together. I like how that, seems like that's kind of how the conservation world is going now. Instead of competing, we're collaborating more, so.
Right. Yeah. That's the one thing I really appreciate having agriculture, right? So we have a few agricultural partners plus conservation partners. And if we can keep them working together, just the land is going to, and the water is going to be the benefit.
Chad?
Chad Babcock with DOT. I guess along those lines and just generally on your organization and these type of projects. So are you identifying the project and then appropriate partners that also kind of piggyback on whatever restoration enhancement type activities that you're doing, and then you coordinate the project and based on that? Or, I mean, do you have regular partners that are facilitating also? I mean, I guess the general question, are you spearheading development and then reaching out to identify the partners that you'll be working with game fishing parks or fish and wildlife service, et cetera?
Yeah. So some of both, right? So we have producers that contact us. So each producer is familiar with different partners, you know, so depending on who it is, that producer, if he contacts me and he has a grazing management practice that has, you know, miles of fence or miles of pipeline tank, I want to help him, but maybe I don't have that dollar amount in my project, you know, to effectively help him. So I would reach out to the game fish and parks person in that area or fish and wildlife or whoever it is, depending on what the project is. And I have partners reaching out to myself or one of my team members as well. So it goes both ways. So I do try to find, I would much rather do a project with someone else than just by myself. Because I think that's better for the producer to understand that we're all in it for the betterment of him, to make sure that the land is better and the water is better.
One quick question maybe for Chris.
Yeah.
Chad with DOT probably would be interested in this too. Are we cleaning up some road ditches by doing this? Especially along Highway 34 maybe?
I would say definitely.
That spot, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But I know there's some other spots that could use some help as well.
Yeah. I get a lot of legislators chewing to me about 34.
Yeah.
So anything we can say, hey, this is we're doing some work, we can point to it. That's what appreciative of.
Right.
Okay. Anyone else have further questions? Okay. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay. We are down to the South Central Watershed Implementation Project, segment 3, request of $1,409,500. And look at the church. Oh, it doesn't like me now. Okay.
Control slide.
down
The
in there too.
presentation's on there, yeah.
Okay,
And that one's just the,
yep. We got double dip. Yes, BJ. This might be Barry McClowry's old laptop. I stole out of his office, so
we'll get there eventually.
yeah.
Maybe you might want to do a few overlaps. Oh, I see something.
We're in business now. Good morning. My name is Shane Durandolo. I'm a project coordinator with South Central, along with Rocky Knipling, Blaine Heave, and then Matt Cavaney helps us do water quality sampling across our project area. First of all, thank you for accepting our application for 319. South Central will be moving to segment 3, and we're asking for $1,409,500. And that's to implement BMPs on grassland, cropland, riparian areas, and some full containment systems. So 319 is our powerhouse for getting these clean water projects across the finish line. We try to partner with as much dollars as we can, leverage as much as we can. But really, a lot of the times, the way that 319 is fast acting when we have these projects that are developed. And in an ideal world, this is kind of what it looks like. We come in and we beg and borrow and try to get as much 319 as we can. We get that through the Nonpoint task force and from DANR. And ideally, we'd have clients in the ready. We'd be able to make plans. We'd have ideal weather. The contractors be ready to work. And by fall, we get our implementation in, be able to take our accomplishments and move on. Unfortunately, implementation is a pretty messy thing. A lot of times we get these surges of clients, but what usually gets us is we make a plan for what we're going to do, what our goals are for $319 for the year, and we get these stuck in these loops of engineering, and contractors have health issues or get behind. We have weather that might create cancellations, and just finding those needs in the water part of the clients and the water quality concerns to see what kind of coincide. We also have external variables that always seem to pop up and kind of upset the apple cart. The economy, obviously, drought, any producer that's watching local or national television, they might decide to hold on a particular project or change when they want to implement it. And of course, the markets, which has been a big thing for 2025. About 70% of our clients that come in actually get to a consultation. A lot of folks have some really good ideas, but they may not coincide with what 319 is about. And then it's about 60% of them end up getting a contract and getting to a contract that'll meet both of our needs. 319 is kind of our lifeblood. We couldn't do what we're doing without 319 as coordinators. It's actually, we were thinking about it and talking about it. It's remarkable that we have this many adults and organizations and agencies that can all come together and make $319 go from the top down to the producer level. We're very thankful for that. The success is truly all of ours. But a big thank you to the EPA 319 program, Region 8, the task force here, South Dakota DNR, James River Water Development District is our sponsor. All the partners that we do work with, like USDA and Pheasants Forever, Ducks Unlimited, the list goes on. And then thanks to our coordinators for continuing to fight the fight and get kicked off of places and have coffee with others. And then the landowners, we really truly are lucky in South Dakota to have landowners that are voluntarily willing to look at water quality and make these improvements on their place. There's some coordinators we've talked to in different states that really have a hard time because the landowner base is not as willing to adopt. Our budget for segment 3, I'll just give you some highlights. This is a 5-year segment. We are a little over $44 million in budget. 20 million of that is coming through an RCPP app that will be statewide to help with our full containment across South Dakota. Every year we kind of look at the end of the year, what went well and what our challenges were for the year. 2025 was kind of plagued with low flow on a lot of our streams when we try to take water quality samples. And the water quality samples are great because it helps inform not only like how we're doing, but also helps us target where we want to focus from year to year. And unfortunately, it would be fantastic if everything we implemented was like right below or right above a water quality station or one of our sample sites. Of course, for that to work, we'd also have equal variables from year to year. So I was told one time that 2 out of 10 years actually coincide so that we can use that data and make kind of a direct correlation to how we're doing. This year in 2025, we were probably only able to sample about 40% of our sites. Up here, you can see the percent of normal in the drought map that we experienced. This was pulled in July. And although we had these significant rainfall events, we just didn't have the flow, and they were short-lived, high-intensity events. One of the sample segments that we were able to sample that we're kind of proud of was Emmanuel Creek, and that's a watershed in Bonhomme County, south of Highway 50. It's been a focus of ours for many years working on Emmanuel Creek. There's been some hard-nosed landowners that we've worked with. There's been some folks that kind of early adopted some different practices. We were able to keep the E. coli and total suspended solids below our standard, and that was a big win for us. Another highlight is this is a project on Firestill Creek that took quite a bit of work. You can see Firestill Creek coming through that area of land down there. The producer was trying to fix the feeding operation that had been historically there for a while. The problem is Firestill Creek went through it, and we had a really hard time trying to move the creek. So we went with a full containment operation. You can see we got a sediment system, fully engineered dikes that went along the creek without changing its core flow. And instead of in that green area on the right, you can see he slowed down feeding and it became weedy. The cattle had access to all of it, and we had quite a bit of sedimentation and hoof action on the creek. Now we've got it completely separate. It's land that a young couple bought, and we're hoping to do something better for Firestill Creek rather than continue to feed on it like it had been. This was another cooperative project without the USDA Nutrient Management Team, without the City of Mitchell, without DANR, without 319. We were not able to do this, and the landowner him and his wife were just not able to put any implementation down without that kind of help. So they were just planning on putting a fence along it, but they would still get all of that manure runoff, obviously, into the Firestill Creek. So another something that we're proud of, that this is a grass waterway. It's not a big one. The issue was a landowner came into us and talked to us about Tripp Lake. His issue was that all of this area was very erodible, and he kept seeing that kind of effluent, that cloud, that sedimentation going into Tripp Lake. He wanted to do something about it. He just wasn't sure what. And so this was a partnership with some engineers and the USDA and contractor issues and delays, and he wanted to get it done in the spring, and it didn't happen. So he just was able to get this grass waterway built and seeded, and he's incredibly proud of it. These are the text pictures he was sending me as he drove it with the tractor. And so he wanted to send his thanks to 319 and whoever is able to, who those people are that the money's coming from. This is another, some implementation that we got done in 2025. There you see some solar panels that work with a solar well. A lot of times water is our core. If we can't get clean, reliable water to the livestock, we can't put in fence, we can't do any deferment, we can't do any prescribed grazing, we can't pull them off the creek. And so this was one of the exclusions on White Swan Creek. The landowner just needs some help with engineering. He took a lot of the cost himself. We just assisted with trying to find some of those practices and get them implemented. This is one of our tanks that got built just not too long ago. I love how these are built to last, and they take very seriously the protection not only of the tank but the surrounding area and the floats. This is one of the last projects we'll highlight quickly. This is a historic feeding operation on the James River. And this is one that took a ton of coordination and partnership to get implemented. We spent, I don't know how many countless meetings in their pheasant lodge and around their kitchen table having coffee. We are able to work with USDA. We came in and talked to them quite a bit about using 319. And then RBI came in, which was kind of a game changer for these folks. You can see that all the feeding operation was against the James River. And in the wet years especially, everything on that left side just went straight into the James River. On the right, you can see some of the construction that we've got completed this fall. It is a fully contained system, pulled back along the gravel road. Everything green up to the river will be abandoned. The old lots will be abandoned, and that'll all be, grass. So that's exciting. This is one of those big thanks to, Hunter Roberts and Paul and Chris and Tanner and everybody involved in the RVI program. That's really what tripped it over. We spent our 5th meeting when we could bring RVI funds in, and that's what made it make sense to the banker, made it make sense to the producers. He's late 20s, early 30s, and he was going to take this operation, which they had in the family for a very long time, and he wanted to do something different. Those landowners are back to what was said on the earlier slide, like without those landowners being willing and able, we wouldn't be able to talk them into a lot of these things. So as a project, another thing we've been kind of proud about, we're currently sitting at 77.22% match. And so in other words, less than 23 cents of every project dollar comes from 319. And that's from us both leveraging and cooperating with a lot of different partners. The landowners are willing to take on a lot of those costs and willing to put the project in because their heart's in it, or through the process of explaining like what this is going to do for their bottom line and do for water quality, do for people down the stream. So they're very focused, and the more that they put in, the more they take ownership of it, is what we found out. So we'll continue to leverage and cooperate with these producers and continue to be good stewards of 319. As we roll into segment 3, again, we're asking for $1,405,500 to carry that momentum and facilitate the implementation we want to put in 2026. This is just a photo of one of the outreach events we did with 3 high schools talking about water quality and going out and actually like physically being out, touching grass, as the kids say now, looking at the streams, looking at the different things that we water sample. So thank you to all of you in this room and Zoom and beyond. Obviously, we couldn't do anything without the task force and without DANR and being able to come in and ask for these funds. And a number of our clients this year, again, back to that same guy with the waterway. When we meet with folks, we usually don't say the word EPA. That's not a good introduction, but over time, when they figure out where this funding comes from and what it's for, they become appreciative and they get trust with what EPA is doing with 319. And even some of our hard-nosed clients have said, again, make sure to thank those people, whoever they are, the dark state that's helping voluntary projects in South Dakota. So thank you. I will stop talking and I'll leave time for questions.
Anyone have questions besides me? Well, you go ahead first. I defer.
All right, again, Paul with the Isaac Walton League. You guys have done, had a long successful history of projects with landowners in this area of the state. Is there any need or will there be any need in the future for O&M funds for what has been done in the past to make sure that the improvements you put in 8-10 years ago are still doing what you want them to do?
Yes, so with that, we got the practice lifespan of like the NRCS practice lifespan, what we mirror. We round on our clients quite often. As far as if we'll need to do operation and maintenance on like the feeding operations, for example. Those have a lifespan also. We came in and we're, brought that early financial incentive to try to get it built and try to get a clean water implementation out of the project. We won't probably end up coming in and doing anything more. Mainly due to once that reaches the practice lifespan, then, because we're tied to those NRCS standards, once it's done, and they can do whatever they want with it. But most of these folks, and especially the producers that have been feeding cattle for a while, they'll never let it go. If they can possibly, unless it's an act of God, they're gonna keep feeding. But did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
It's your only question?
That's my only question.
Okay.
Yes, Angela.
Well, it's part of your project. I know it's not 319 funding, but I see you have $25,000 from the Conservation Commission in your grassland BMPs for brush management. And I just want to share with you a little conversation that went on at the the Conservation Commission, because it's very expensive to take out the big trees. So as you're working in that area, one of the points that was made over and over, while you were there, it's very important to teach the producers or raise their awareness that it's a whole lot better to take out a baby tree than a big tree, and it's a lot less expensive. And if we're going to stop the Green Glacier, so is that part of your thinking and education on this program?
Yes. So in the world of, and I wish we could pay to have some removal, but it's more expensive the bigger they get, right? So when we talk about prescribed grazing, we've tried to find a strong correlation if good prescribed grazing stops that Green Glacier. And there's a reduction, but it never really goes away. And up in the north, they've had some really good success with using a skid steer and breaking them off in the winter because they get hardy and they snap. We've worked and talked with like some of the burn associations, putting in and bringing that fire return interval back in. The most effective, most amazing thing I've ever seen was 15 to 20 Hutterite boys with chainsaws. And they just cleared a hillside. But again, that's in the larger aspect of things. I think we've seen a lot of education and awareness show up along the Missouri River and kind of in that Bonhomme Charles Mix area. And I think it was mainly because, the father and grandfather went, look what happened to my land. We did some studies that, we lost 25 to 75% of the forage production in those areas. And so a lot of our landowners are looking at doing rest so they can burn it later, like building, biomass to burn, or just asking questions and going. Nebraska's got quite a few workshops and going across the river to kind of educate themselves because they don't want to end up losing that pasture. It's something we've talked about, and I really wish we had a magic bullet for, because
You guys have got some projects going, don't you, Judge?
We don't, but we're involved with the Mid-Missouri Prescribed Burn.
yeah, there you go.
So if you-
They are working hard. The Mid-Missouri, Prescribed Burning Association.
Yeah.
Are doing
Just
great.
encourage that, having that conversation, because otherwise we're gonna be back there in 10 years doing it all over again, and it's not gonna be any cheaper.
Yeah. Yep. And from what I'm told,
But we do not need to declare it an invasive species either.
no, 24 inches and below is like our golden area to treat. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, 100%. Because once they get over that, it just gets more and more expensive. Yeah.
Okay. I did have one more question and my brain went dead again. Oh. Maybe it's not the right place to ask that question, but given some of the tours you gave, you know, like to high school students on, especially those last two projects about the efficiency and efficacy, especially on the James River with the RBIs. And you said your producers are very appreciative of the funding. Would they possibly be interested in hosting some congressional staffers to take a look?
I think.
Not out of the question to ask that.
I think we have some producers that are willing, yes. I think a lot of the times, it all depends on what you digest for media and for TV and everything else and where your opinions lie. But a lot of them are quietly happy when they figure out that they got money from the EPA. They feel like they did something wrong. Most of them, 95% of them are super appreciative. And a few of them would be willing to host or, you know.
I'm talking like 3-4 congressional, the ag staff or each of the congressionals or something like that. You're in Dusty Johnson's watershed.
Yeah, right. And we have some great projects that we do, and we do a pretty good job of doing local, like little events. We want to do a better job, and especially on some of these other projects, the highly visible ones. Everybody knows the one on the James River because they can see it for miles, you know. Once we get that fully built, should be up and operational by next year. We'd sure like to have folks come out and look and see what, you know, what RBI funding did, what USDA funding did, what 319 funding had done. Just to put some visibility on this is what it can do. And that might be a great time to bring out some congressional staff.
We sure help to arrange, work with you on that, but.
I would love anything that would get visibility on 319 funds right now. I would love for us to continue to be able to do this in the future. It's a dream job, and it's a very strange situation to get in conservation this way, in the way that all the funding, like I said, going from Region 8 all the way down through these guys, all the way down to the producer. It's remarkable, and I'd love to keep that strong.
I don't mean it to step back, but the opportunities here.
No, and it's a great conversation to have because our board chairman has been very good at hitting us with a hammer of nobody knows what you're doing unless you tell them. And we're not good at, I should say, I'm not good at going, hey, look over here, you know, and look what we did. But yeah, but in the interest of all the folks working together to make this happen, I need to get better at it. And that would be a great way to get better at it.
I did see Ann, looks like Ann has a comment.
Oh, and?
Hi, yeah, nice presentation. And this is for really all coordinators and producers, project coordinators, is if you are interested in first having or working with the Volunteer Naturalist program, our applications are now open for the next cohort. So I could send you some information. You could send it out to your communities, to your networks. And from the get-go, I think it would be useful to have the idea that you're recruiting people or helping them be part of this program to also be part of your project. I feel like that's a natural synergy right there. And second, those who would like to, especially those who are bringing out high school or middle school students, I would be very happy to do a macro blitz training and help you, show you how you can make this more educationally useful and fun for the kids, and also contribute some data that provides insight, at least on the biodiversity of South Dakota's waterways. So just shopping that out there for this and all projects.
Thank you, Ann. Anyone else have any comments, thoughts? Well, that was the last of our projects, and I believe now we're going to.
Now it would be a break for lunch.
Right, we could feed the lunch crowd, and then you can get back, you get a better parking spot.
Well, did you want to?
Yeah. Oh, Paul, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I didn't want to take away from 319, but last year's task force meeting, it had us updated where we were at with RBI. In particular, the big watershed, RMI funded by, $6 months, $2 million, what we had to spend by last June. Most of you probably know this already, but we did, that milestone. And kind of a thank you to all the partners, everybody in this room, I'm sure had some impact on that project with us. I know a lot of you did. Bill, I'll give Bill kudos on this, but Bill Smith, the Division Director, Resource Conservation Forestry, wanted to get a cake. And so it has the RBI map on it, the watershed with all the different RBI project points on it. So as you come back from lunch or even before lunch, if you like to.
Well, how about we do it after lunch and we'll have a little
Yeah,
celebration and
I would welcome
cut the
that.
cake. There's no fireworks with it or candles, sorry. Maybe I'll set up a water
I'll
sprinkler.
place those online. No cake for you online. but-
You guys have to have virtual cake.
Yeah, we'll email you.
We'll eat one for you. But yeah, how about we try to get back here a little before 1 if we can? And we will then do the DNR's recommendations on funding, have some discussion. And then we develop our own recommendations and meet our 2 p.m. adjournment if I live everybody's time. So we are in recess.
Thank you, everybody online. I'll put this, stop the recording and then start a new one after the lunch break. Thanks.
Recess to, for the Nonpoint Source Task Force meeting, and at this time, I'm gonna call upon Chris Dozar to make that DNR recommendation for the funding. By the way, those in line, you missed a really good cake. Chris, can you pull the camera?
Yep. That a second.
Yeah, but I'll pay for it.
That should be good.
Then I'll share my screen.
I'll be sharing the screen. I'll mention that we have 6 voting members of the task force. Conservation districts, DNR, Grassland Coalition, Ikes, DOT, East Dakota Water Development District.
Stop water development.
Huh? On behalf of all water development districts, you are correct.
You weren't claiming this in your license.
So like I said at the beginning, so our expected fiscal year 2025 was going to be roughly $2.6 million. We ended up getting $2,638,000 last year. Then projected a 15% reduction of that. So kind of looking at $2,242,300. Probably getting that from EPA. It's under the 319, section 319 funds. We historically have been using about $842,000 for our staff and support through the watershed protection program. That essentially helps fund 14 FTEs. And pretty much everything that we do, not everything. We also get some funding from like 106, section 106, and a couple other funding sources, but 604B, we get a little bit of money from that. The majority of our salaries come from the 319 pot. So again, that 842,000 helps fund our 14 full-time employees. So subtracting that out of the 2.2 million, we're about 1.4 million. And then Andy Rules, gracious enough to give us $200,000 in clean water SRF water quality grants to push through to our non-point source fund. So altogether, our total available for pass-through money is $1,600,300. That's kind of what our projections are for this year. So that's kind of what we're basing our recommendations on. So we'll just go through them just how we had them present today. So looking at the Belle Fourche River Watershed Management and Project Implementation Plan, segment 11. This is an amendment. Sponsor is the Belle Fourche River Watershed Partnership. Total cost of their projects $4,579,000 with the 319 grant request of $735,000. One thing I should explain is most of these projects came in and kind of asked, you know, what's a reasonable thing, and I told them to put in for what they needed because I want to show everybody that there's a huge need for non-point source. So some of these are probably a little bit elevated from what they would normally ask, but I told them to kind of do that. So, you know, maybe we could get something from across the street at some point for non-point source. That was my thinking. So with that being said, with the Belle Fourche DANR staff recommendations is for $230,000 of fiscal year 26, 319 funds. And that's based on previous awards, available funding, here's that lot. And then the sponsor's ability to successfully leverage funds from other partners. Sponsors encouraged to keep leveraging funds from multiple sources, including RCPP and Conservation Commission grants. So, go.
Chris?
Yeah.
Forget all the details. Well, in this case, does staff recommendation direct some of the reductions? I mean, they have 500,000-ish of BMP cost support, but another 175, 200, anyway, some substantial number in staff time.
We have in the past, we did not do that this year. Yeah, with most of these reductions that we had this year, we did not open up with those adjustments. Right. Okay, so we'll move on to South Dakota Non-Point Source Information Education Project. This is for a new segment 8. Sponsored South Dakota Discovery Center. Looking at a total cost of $678,500. With a 319 grant request of $407,500. Did I get that wrong? Oh, I got it written wrong on my sheet. $407,000. So DNR staff recommendation is to, they were asking for a 3-year project, and we kind of knocked them back to a 2-year. So we're going to look at a total funds of about $277,000. 77,000 of that coming from the FY 26 319 funds, and then the other 200,000 coming from clean water SRF water quality grants. Again, this is based on available funding. Sponsor submitted a plan for a 3-year project, and we essentially removed a year from their PIP. And again, the sponsor is encouraged to reapply for more funding in subsequent years. Third one, soil health improvement and planning project, segment 3. This is an amendment. Sponsor is the South Dakota Soil Health Coalition. Total cost of their project is $3,422,700. The 319 grant request of $800,000. DNR staff recommendations is to award them $300,000 in FY26 319 funds. Recommendation is based on previous expenditures, funding remaining in the current segment. The sponsor's ability to successfully leverage funds from other partners. Similar to the information education project, the sponsor submitted a plan for a 2-year extension, and we essentially removed a year from their PIP. Again, the sponsor is encouraged to continue seeking funding and reapply for funding in subsequent years for 319 funds. So, South Central Watershed Implementation Project, segment 3. This is a new segment. Sponsors James River Water Development District. Total cost of their project is $44,394,430. The 319 grant request of $1,409,500. DNR staff recommendation for $793,300. Make sure my math is. Of FY26 319 funds, recommendations based on previous expenditures and previous segments and funds available. Project is very good at leveraging funds from multiple sources and works with many of other groups and organizations to help get conservation on the ground. And really all of our projects have done a tremendous job in collaborating with other groups and organizations to leverage the 319 funds, as evidenced by their presentations. The sponsor is encouraged to continue seeking funding and to reapply for funding in subsequent years. So fortunately, with the expected cuts, everybody kind of got a haircut. And hopefully in subsequent years, we have more funding to go around.
Chris, I saw somewhere in, I think, the South Central one that Mitchell wastewater and stuff had some money in there. Is that the interest like they do in Sioux Falls?
I believe so. I think that's Clean Water Esther.
That's the money that comes from that, what should be their interest payment? That's in there. Okay. That's the only project in this group that is eligible for that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, eligible maybe isn't the right term, but it's the only project.
With the
right now
wastewater,
that's making
water,
it, doing
yeah,
something.
that's what I meant, yeah. So it's the only one that is eligible to do that interest. Yeah, well, one of their partners is.
Yeah. At this time, I take any questions or comments. Yeah.
Gotta ask, and I think it's compliments to keeping the staff funding the same at 842. But was there any consideration from staff, and maybe you weren't able to do this, as you use the term haircut, to have staff funding go down by that same commensurate rate of 15% with the low funding this year? Was that discussed at all?
We did not really.
Yeah, no, it wasn't discussed. We really have no other options.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and you've been holding it,
Essentially home.
you've been holding it steady quite a few years
Yeah.
and not taking an increase in your salaries.
Leverage as much of the grants and other matchable state. But we use our other grants as much as possible to fund salaries and various other things, so that if we have 319 funds left over, they can once in a while becomes available for projects like that occasion, somebody will come and say, hey, I really need another $100,000. we try to be as conservative as possible. Kind of growing our staff to,
Right.
and it's not, they're not all based on implementation, they're assessment and implementation. And so, yeah, we kind of got to, we've had some other outstanding, costs, City of Sioux Falls, our rent in Sioux Falls at the one stop has gone up considerably from what we used to pay, so, you know, we gotta factor that in. But there's just a lot of things that have come down the pipe in the last couple of years that really put a burden on that 842. Try not to raise that at all.
How close are you getting to where at some point in the near future, next year or so, that you're gonna have to raise them just because you've been absorbing those costs in other ways?
I don't think we'll make any changes until it comes down from the
Big boys.
finance and says, hey, look, you're overspending your 319 funds. We have not, we don't get to see every little expenditure from them. We don't know how they use our matching funds, things like that. And until they come down and tell us, hey, you're overspending, we're gonna try to keep it at this magic level and try to do everything we possibly can to not tap into the past.
But you haven't raised that in quite some time, so I'm getting nervous that you are probably getting closer to the needing to raise it, that we can stay where we are.
Right, so there's one grant in particular, 106, where we get, where we're doing the national survey work. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but, we get X amount of dollars per site that we do, and we have close to 30 sites. And then that's on top of our total, our main allocation. That gives us some pretty good funding to fund our staff through the summer, 4 or 5 months of the summer. So that really takes away from the 319. We usually stay afloat from that. And we do it, it's every 5 years. There's a national lake cycle and a stream cycle. And so there's a couple-year gap. We've been able to survive that couple-year gap, but we'll use that 106 to kind of make any shortfalls. I have not heard that we're anywhere close to, hey, you guys can't afford your staff yet, so.
Both of you have mentioned the 14 full-time employees. Is that capacity, or are you understaffed at the 14?
I would have to say that we're at capacity. Yeah, I think we do have 15th FTE that we usually don't try to hire.
Okay.
For various reasons. But 14, yeah, we're at full staff.
Okay. If memory serves, you guys could pull up to half of the award.
Yeah, so that's where
And
the,
224 to 300.
so the non-point source program funds on line 6 is essentially what our program, the watershed protection program, could take from the fund. And a lot of states do that, but we're lucky enough to get this amount of funding to where we don't have to take it all, and we can pass it all, we can pass the rest through, so. There is still some room there. We hopefully never get to that. We like passing it through because you guys do great work. So that's kind of where we're at on that.
But that wouldn't be doing that wouldn't be incompatible with the rules. Right. So again, kudos to the department for not taking it.
Yeah, historically, we
For
have,
being under.
but we have no plans to do that. As long as.
But I do think that should be a priority to make sure that we have the money to fund the staff that assists all the programs as well as those that are working on future programs.
You know, and that number, you know, it's a budget number. I think best we can do to project what we may need and hopefully we're under that, or we have been under that. But we want to have it in there just in case.
But there's always inflation and all those other, your health insurance and all that. So at some point you are going to hit the limit of that. It would just be nice to know. Well, it'd be nice to know before they totally killed the EPA program.
The places where we have seen that is, you know, you'll maybe recall a few years ago, the state employees got a pretty good raise. Every time that happens, that does, you know, that puts a burden on that 848. So
Well, not
I
just
think
your
that's
burden,
what-
but your health insurance or any other administrative costs that go with it. Your rent in Sioux Falls.
the rent in Sioux Falls is substantial. But we've been able, so far,
We can't just make Jeremy work out of his house.
Well, Jeremy would like to go back to his old office, but
Oh.
I guess that wasn't an option.
Okay, all Are there any questions, discussions on the recommendations by DNR for each of the specific projects, both in the house here or online? Any comments?
Maybe just
Go ahead.
a follow-up on my earlier question. Obviously, you know, the amounts, if final numbers that go through, are significantly different than what the applicants have submitted. And staff would work with the applicants to, you know, the applicants would need to sit down, look at, here's what we can do with $277,000. Here's how we would propose to do it. Then staff would still have to go through and say, that's okay, before doing it. It's, they don't necessarily have the freedom to say, well, you gave us 270, I'm picking my hand, because the number's there, but you know, 277, as long as I spend it on something inside this $407 box. I'm cool.
Yeah.
That isn't the case.
Yeah, and what I tried to do with the ones that had like multiple years, I tried to like cut a year out.
Right.
You know, they might have 3 years of budget, and hopefully to make it as easy as possible, like make it a 2-year project and hopefully gets close to 277. Right.
Next year, due to come in that we're pretty sure of is the Big Sioux, right? What would be the other projects that, all the other existing projects are on this list, isn't it?
Bell.
The Bell's on this one. They come in every year, I think.
We're getting down to a point where, you know, projects are gonna have to come in year after year in order to get their full funding.
No,
Depending
you're
on
not
how
the
much
only ones
stuff
that happens.
spends. Once they put on the ground, I could see them coming back in.
Right,
Um,
but the only one that isn't one of the big projects that's not on this list, is one of the big projects not on this, is the Bell. That's, we've only got the 5. And we're not planning on starting any new assessments or.
Brickatoe, I could see they might come in next year. I think I think we're giving them 2 years of funding, so they have to come in next year to get on time.
Yeah.
Oh, Prairie Coteau and Black Hills.
Yeah, yeah.
That's an assessment, isn't it?
That was it's kind of right now it's in a planning phase. Yeah. Like they have to put in plans basically to see what they have to do for implementation.
So that one encompasses what in the Black Hills? The whole Black Hills or just a?
No, that one's just that's Rapid Creek. Yeah.
Okay.
Gave them 200,000. Set up plans. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, in the
They
minutes.
just received that funds or things that benefit they, last year's projects just received their funds, so they're about 1.
Well, they don't have a budget yet to give you money for 2026 either.
That raises I have a question.
Yeah, you did. You gave 200,000 to Rapid Creek. Okay, go ahead.
I was just curious, Margaret had anything to add to the funding levels, if you've heard anything? If you think that this, where we're going with what we think we're gonna get is accurate as we can be to today.
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately don't have any other insight into what may happen. We are operating off of that 15% projection cut to 319, but we're under a continuing resolution right now through the end of January, when we'll see if, you know, they pass a full budget and we'll get more information. If they do another continuing resolution, we'll sort of just keep going with the amount that they fund us like they have now. So usually we get our allocations in the spring. I think last year those were a bit delayed, and we're hoping it won't be that way again this year, but we'll see. I wish I had more information to share, but just kind of waiting for the budget process to work its way.
Thank you. Maybe the good news will be more than we expected. And then what? And then what? And then a whole bunch of amendments?
Well, with this, it would be, yeah, we'd basically probably divvy it out. Yeah, proportionally over the 4 projects, and then
Yeah, we'll have to adjust budgets from there, yeah.
House has passed their budget, so you need to be putting pressure on the Senate if you make some changes.
Thank you, Byron, appreciate it.
So,
Yeah, I guess, I mean, just quickly along that point, these are all draft, projections of what may happen. So there is a chance it could be more, there is a chance it could be less. So just kind of operate with this for now and then make adjustments when we get the final information. Thanks.
well, you heard recommendations of the department.
Cindy's typing.
Oh, Cindy's typing.
Answer it. Got a little 3 dot. Oh, thank you.
Okay. So, hearing no further comments by both the projects as well as the voting members, now would be the time to either move to make changes to the recommendation or to accept the recommendation as proposed. What is your pleasure? I can't make these motions. Well, I can, but somebody else should know. Mr. Water Development District.
Yes, I will move to accept and adopt staff recommendations.
Isn't it accept and recommend?
Accept and recommend, whatever.
Okay. We have a motion by the Water Development District, seconded by the ICE to accept and recommend DNR's recommendations to the Board of Water and Natural Resources. Okay, any further discussion on that motion?
There should be more.
I think the legislators are gonna think that when they're going through their budget too.
Yeah.
I need a story of here.
The only other thing I guess I would say, and acknowledging that I did not take a morning session as a task force member.
But I tried to ask questions for you.
I know that's true. And, I sort of kind of got to talk to him a little bit. I will say as a longtime participant in most of the time, and I'm a little disappointed that 3 of the 4 projects opted not to show up
In person.
in person.
We're having some bad weather in Dade County if that helps.
They see roads all in many areas of the state, so I think that hindered some traffic.
Well, and they did send Terry Ness here on their behalf. So.
Okay, but I guess to me,
Mhm.
if it takes $1.4 million to get a project to show up and ask, $800,000 is not a trivial amount of money. And it wouldn't have killed somebody to come to the meeting.
Well, he did. Terry's with the Soil Health Coalition. He was here. Don't know why he didn't come back after lunch, but he was here for the pitch.
All right, there was somebody here for the pitch, then that leaves,
Uh-huh.
Bell and Ivy, but I think, you're asking for more than $100 or more than $1,000. It wouldn't kill you to show up. And this point. That's it.
Duly noted. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, voting members signify by saying aye, or do you need a vote by each of them? We're all present in the room. There isn't anybody online. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign, motion has carried. So I assume we have to present this to the Board of Water and Natural Resources in January.
January, yep. 8th, for sure. You get confused, I got 8th and 12th or something.
I think the 12th is legislative studies,
And it's always a week before session starts.
like the Thursday.
It's the 8th.
Okay. All right. Well, is there any further business to come before this task force?
If somebody from the task force have to be at the board meeting to talk about this recommendation per month, we'll stop that.
The chair.
Yeah, like usually I'll present it to the the Board of Water and Natural Resources, and then there is a little spiel in there about.
The chair saying we agree with the recommendation
Okay.
and we encourage you to accept.
Okay.
Did I get that down?
Fine job.
And we usually make two motions there because of the Clean Water SRF part of it. That requires a separate motion and the 319 funding recommendations also. Action, so.
I would like to thank, members of the task force for being here.
Oh, you bribed us with cake.
I know that, our projects have been the same for quite some time, so we really do appreciate the input, so I appreciate it.
And I don't think I've seen you here before.
First time.
Good.
Good.
Did you understood everything we were?
I had, like I indicated by my question, I still got a little bit of catch up to fully understand how everything's implemented, but vaguely, I think I understand.
Long time ago, we used to have DOT's wetland mitigation in part of these.
Yeah, and Caitlin came over last year. I wanted to participate directly this year, I have a better understanding.
We appreciate you coming and being part of the group today.
Thank you.
There being,
One,
yes, sir.
and I know it's a difficult time of year, travel budgets are tight, but I'm old enough to remember when this room used to be full.
And we did a little fighting over the money.
And we used to fight over the money, and so when I walked in today, I thought, well, gee, we're gonna have 25 online. What as task force members, how do we reignite the passion of what were previous members to get them back in the room and back involved in the process? Because this was really
Like to, it has been for a few years.
right.
What, we got 25 or so on the
On
task
the
force
task
membership?
force, yeah.
Probably.
But you also have to realize that this week, I believe, corn is maybe, soybeans are maybe.
Soybean meal last week.
That's right, they were last. But there's,
And I'm representing the ENR and the ANR at the same time. That used to be two separate.
two separate agencies.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. I wish there were some more that would participate even online,
Mm-hmm.
but that's probably a conversation that we as task force members need to have with our other task force members about recognizing the importance of being part of the decision making. But again, we're not fighting as we used to over where who got what, and
Right.
you guys have done a really good job of refining the process and making good recommendations based on what we have for available dollars.
And I mean, we have longstanding projects that just keep coming back in. So,
Right.
we tried to make some new things. Built Black Hills project last year and some other stuff, but we don't want to get too crazy because the funding is usually pretty limited. Right. But I would like to see more people, more task force members here because I don't want us always being. I like the input. We like the input, but don't always want to be right on everything we say. So.
One of the things that the task force members we could do is encourage our fellow task force members to get involved in the congressional process to support the program.
Most of that's.
Right.
Chris and I talk about it quite often, so we'll also try to see if we can. Encourage.
I think there's some organizations now that are more of a player than they used to be that could possibly be, more a larger part of the task force.
Somewhat surprised NRCS wasn't here. And they're a big funder in this. I know they're doing, there's they have a new active state con and there's all kinds of things going on. But there being no further business, I do declare this meeting adjourned.
Well, thanks everybody online. I'll send the
One bit.
recording down.
Hey, I finished this 10 minutes early.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a cake to take downstairs. If you